Good morning and welcome to today's webinar, Collaboration in the Supply Chain Cloud. My name is William Wallace and I'll be moderating the webinar this morning. First of all, I'm delighted to be able to welcome our two expert panelists online. John Connors, CEO of the Supply Chain Cloud. John will be explaining what exactly the Supply Chain Cloud is and outlining some of the key points for the supply chain industry in leveraging the possibilities of cloud computing. And we also have Karl Mayrhofer, Managing Director at Fabasoft. Karl will be talking from a more practical perspective about what's important for the supply chain industry to be aware of, and we'll be demonstrating a real-life example of how a cloud-based application can be used effectively to solve a supply chain-based business need. Before we get started, just a few quick pointers about the webinar format. So you can ask questions at any time via the Questions tab on the GoToWebinar toolbar, which you can hopefully see on your screen. There's also the chat window that you can use to communicate with us, and I will collect the questions and pose them to both of our panelists at the end of the webinar. The webinar session will be recorded, and we will make both the recording and the presentation slides available to you after the webinar. We will inform you via email of exactly how and when you can access this information. So enough from me. I'm delighted to be able to hand over now to John Connors. John, over to you.
Hi, thanks a lot, William. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the webinar. Just to give a bit of background, the Supply Chain Cloud was set up in 2012 to research and promote the applications of cloud computing as it pertains to supply chain management. Now, the reason this has been done is because it is very important that industry-specific cloud computing information is provided to the supply chain in order that organizations can understand the true benefits that cloud can provide and also be aware of any of the pitfalls or problems they might actually encounter. The reason this is important is that the supply chain industry is a prime candidate for cloud, simply because of the sheer number of partners and suppliers that must collaborate to manufacture and distribute products. So it is clear that many of the supply chains today are highly fragmented with silos of information that make it nearly impossible to share information in real time with your trading partners. So evidently we need technology platforms that empower you to visualize a product in every stage of its life cycle, from raw materials to delivery to the end customer. So businesses do need to communicate and share data with their entire trading network. Basically, to do this, you do need solutions that go beyond the four walls of your own business and then that allow you to track and trace product shipments and orders and make it easy to share massive amounts of data securely. So quite simply, the supply chain needs the cloud, and indeed the cloud needs the supply chain to achieve the industry growth that has been projected. Now, if we look at the growth of cloud computing and its acceptance, Gartner came out with a report last year estimating that cloud-based adoption increased by 40% in 2012 as compared to 2011 in the supply chain. So if you start looking at breaking that growth down among the various supply chain software offerings, the adoption rates are highest in the areas of collaborative sourcing and procurement, demand planning, global trade management, and transport management systems. So obviously acceptance is growing, but we feel a lot of education still needs to take place, and we are not without challenges. Now, the adoption of cloud computing does come with its own set of challenges. Three of the most pressing questions that come up when an organization is assessing the cloud are, number one, will I lose control over the data that was previously housed on my own internal servers? Will my data be safe in the cloud? And what happens if there are service outages? Now, for organizations accustomed to being able to answer all three questions internally, the move to the cloud can be a bit daunting. But I really feel in many cases such fears are unwarranted. A lot of companies that are running data centers are working on the same concept as the cloud, but it just so happens that they have control over the security of their data. Now, in some cases, the cloud itself is the answer to an organization's online data concerns. For example, if you take a shipper looking to have a TMS data center online and available 24/7 must have a number of redundant systems in place. So, you know, as an organization, you can either pay for and maintain that redundancy yourself, or you can take advantage of the cloud-based environment where the host will provide the redundancy and spread the cost across various users. So clearly, from a financial standpoint, cloud makes a lot of sense. Now, but the problem is how do you actually approach cloud if you're very new to the whole concept and to the industry? When we were asked to research cloud computing as it pertains to supply chain management, we initially thought this would be a relatively simple job to do, bearing in mind the amount of hype around the subject. But when we approached it from the perspective of setting up a hybrid cloud model, things started to become, you know, a little bit more difficult than we envisaged due to the large number of new players in the market. Also, the message coming from the cloud industry and the suppliers is generally too broad, and simply saying that cloud computing is everything to everybody and just get on board is really not good enough. You know, it is not true, it's simply not true, because different industries will have different requirements, and the supply chain is definitely one of those. When we start to consider issues surrounding compliance and governance in a multinational supply chain, for example, with partners operating under different regulatory frameworks, things can become complicated unless your provider truly understands your business. Also, I personally feel there is too strong a focus on technology and not enough on applications. I mean, simply, do you really need to know about the infrastructure behind cloud computing? The answer is no. Quite simply, the technology driving cloud is well proven, and what we need to do is separate the IT issue from the business process gains. And basically, the question is, where is my return on investment? And I think the real ROI comes from business transformation. And what I mean by that is when you can transform your business processes through cloud, and that is a key benefit not to be ignored. As per my introduction, traditional supply chains have been constrained by the inability to visualize their full trading network and communicate with it in real time. So for me, the killer application of the cloud is business-to-business collaboration. The ability to communicate with your full trading network on one platform is transformational, and that really realizes the goal of true supply chain visibility. Now, speed and agility of deployment are very important areas as well. You know, the value of modern cloud-based solutions is that they can be architected from the ground up to be highly configurable in anticipation of business change. The need for collaboration and the systems interoperability are important for success in the global supply chain. Users can facilitate on-demand changes in customer business rules, easily introduce new transport event messages with trading partners, enable rich reporting and data visualization, which are some of the capabilities that can constrain legacy systems. So when software modification is needed, many studies show that SaaS technologies in particular can be quickly modified for less than 20% of the cost of modifying legacy systems, and that's not to mention the time savings that will also be gained. So to end my mini presentation, I will touch on the most important aspect of cloud that can be impeding its acceptance, and that is trust. Trust in the cloud providers and data protection. Now, Gartner have produced a report on the hype cycle of cloud computing, and the key point was that if you look at the vendor landscape today, by 2015, only 1/3 of the vendors would be in business by 2015. So what does that mean? Well, it means that you need to deal with vendors who have a strong pedigree and history of providing solutions to the supply chain and have a clear vision on continually innovating to ensure that their clients are using the best leading edge solutions. You also need providers who have strong protocols in place in relation to compliance and governance and of course data security. Now, without a doubt, Fabasoft is one such organization, and I would like to now hand you over to Karl Mayrhofer, who will present how they have worked with ENISA to ensure the security of their client data, and will also present information on their manufacturer certificate. So over to you, Karl.
Thanks very much, John. I'll just hand over the control to Karl.
Thank you, John, for this introduction. I would now like to to show you a very practical example for this kind of business process transformation to the cloud in the context of the supply chain. And this example is about car homologation. It's a real example. It's a business process which was implemented by Daimler to support the certification of cars for certain markets, in particular for the Chinese market. China has a special form of car homologation, of car certification. It's the China compulsory certificate process, and Daimler needs to support that process and that certification to import cars to China. But Daimler cannot do that on their own. They need to involve their suppliers, in particular their tire manufacturers. They have a lot of tire manufacturers which are suppliers for Daimler cars, and they need to involve these companies in that process to successfully create the certificates for the Chinese market. And this is a process which involves a lot of companies in a lot of different countries, and this kind of process is a very good example for the cloud. You could use the cloud to implement such a process in a very efficient way, and I would like to show you how that works here. So far, companies rely on using email, for instance, to implement this kind of process. Most of these companies have an internal solution to manage their digital content. They have a document management system or whatever. But if it comes to collaboration across companies and countries, most of them rely on email today. But email is unsecure. If you use an email address in a wrong way, you could provide very sensitive documents to a false address, and this is a security issue. On the other hand, you are not able to have a consistent view across business cases or across business processes. So such a business process is very fragmented if you implement it using email. And the cloud is able to support that in a very efficient and elegant way. So that's why Daimler decided to use the cloud, in particular the Fabasoft cloud platform, Folio Cloud, to implement this kind of business process. And the core concept for implementing that business process is what we call a team room. A team room is a secure, protected area in this cloud, which can be used to transfer documents and to share documents and to collaborate with other people in other companies across country borders. So for instance, John could be working in Stuttgart and he implements a document to this kind of team room, and Anne in Frankfurt and Steve in Berlin could access that document as well. And the team room is a protected area, so nobody else has access than those people who are granted access to such a secure area. Folio Cloud provides software as a service in a public cloud. This means that you get business applications for B2B collaboration, for sharing documents, for collaborating with other people. And those business applications are available instantly and globally because they are run in a public cloud service. So you're very quick to establish this kind of business process. You simply register via self-service. You could also register your organization in-folio cloud. The advantage is that you do not act as a single user in the cloud, but you could act as a company in the cloud. And you could manage certain security criteria, storage management in a central way for the whole organization. You could even implement your organizational hierarchy within the cloud to use it for access rights and for workflows, for instance. So it's really for B2B collaboration and for transforming business processes to the cloud. Now this is how the solution for the car homologation works. So we have in this example, we have two tire manufacturers, Pirelli and Michelin, and they provide certificates and they manage their certificates in certain team rooms. So Pirelli has a team room of its own for its own people, and Michelin has a team room for its own people to manage their certificates. But then they can share those certificates with the car manufacturers, with the OEMs, with Daimler, for instance, or with BMW. And this is achieved by using multiple referencing. So you could reference such a certificate document in different context situations by linking those documents via the cloud service. And there is a logic behind that, and that logic was implemented using the so-called cloud application. You could implement the cloud app to reflect your own individual rules to share information and to collaborate with other companies. So it's based on the team room principle to have a protected area, so nobody else could see documents which are in such a team room, but it uses multiple referencing based on logical, on certain logical rules to share those documents, to share certain documents with other companies across the cloud service. Why is this reliable, and why was Daimler able to trust this kind of solution in a public cloud? You should probably look at the ENISA definition of an information assurance framework. ENISA is a European organization which provides 20 key areas for cloud trust and for cloud assurance. And we have a website, a dedicated website, which is trust.fabasoft.com, where we answer those requirements as defined by ENISA for our own cloud services. So we give answers to all those requirements which are provided by ENISA, and you can read them there. Just to pick out some of them, for instance, in terms of security at infrastructure level, we do a lot of certifications, for instance, ISO 27001, ISO 20000, or we do assessments and audits for ISAE 3402. These are the major international standards to provide a secure and reliable environment for cloud services. And so Fabasoft has those certificates, and this gives our customers a lot of trust that we take security and reliability very serious. For instance, we publish our service levels, which are granted to our customers via our contract, and we publish those service levels on our website, trust.fabasoft.com, so you can see what the availability was across the last half a year, and what the performance was, for instance. Another very important aspect from our point of view, and and also from our customers' point of view, is you should know where the data is. we have a concept which we call cloud locations. Our customers have the choice to decide where they want to persist the data, in which cloud location they want to persist the data. So even if this is a public cloud service, we still grant the physical location of the data to our customers. They can choose whether they want to have the data in Switzerland, in Germany, or in Austria. And in each cloud location, we have at least 2 data centers, and the third one for backup, and the 2 data centers are synchronized so that you cannot lose any data. And this, for instance, is our cloud data center, our main data center in Switzerland. It's a level 4 data center. It's provided by Deltalis. Deltalis is the data center provider, and we rent room, we rent space, electricity, connections, climate, cooling, but we provide our own systems, and we provide the whole software stack for running those services. So we do not rely on US providers, for instance. We do not run our cloud service on Amazon, for instance. We do not rely on infrastructure as a service from other providers. We run the whole stack, and we do even have the whole source code for the cloud service within Fabasoft, because it's based on open source software, to be independent from other providers in this area. As mentioned, we do also provide security at the application level. That's the team room concept. A team room is a protected area in a cloud location where only explicitly authorized and invited persons have access. So you could decide as a customer where to persist such a team room, and then we grant that all the data will be in that cloud location, but you can still collaborate across company and country borders because it's a public cloud service. We do also make sure that the access to the data is protected. We do support a lot of different authentication mechanisms. So this starts with login and password for our test account, which is free. But then we provide 2-factor authentication using a mobile PIN, which is sent to your mobile phone. We do support single sign-on, for instance, based on client certificates. And we do even support digital identities. In Germany with the ID card, in Austria with the citizen card with mobile signature, and in Switzerland with the Swiss ID. And that gives you a new quality for B2B collaboration, because then you have more trust who the persons are you work with in the cloud. You can rely on those identities and on those persons, because their identity, their physical identity, is linked to a digital identity. And this is typically provided by a government security infrastructure service, which is totally independent from the cloud vendor. In Austria there is the Atrust, for instance, which provides this kind of security infrastructure. And if you authenticate, you're authenticated against that infrastructure. And then all the people could trust that if I log in with my digital ID, that I'm really the person, Karl Mayrhofer, and nobody else who maintains to be Karl Mayrhofer. We do also provide security on a document level by using dynamic watermarks. So you could define your watermarks within Folio Cloud, and then you could apply those watermarks in PDF documents. And you could even make sure that all the people who have only read access will always see a generated PDF including dynamic watermarks. That has the benefit that you could always find out where the document is originated, even if it's exported or printed out of the cloud. You could still track it, and this is important for compliance support, that you really track where the data and information comes from. And whether it's still up to date, of course, because the cloud is about providing consistent, up-to-date information. That's a major benefit compared to email, for instance, because it doesn't fragment information as email would do. You always have a consistent view in a team room, and by multi-referencing these informations, you always have a consistent, up-to-date information. But if you print a document and you carry it around, you would maybe still want to see when that information was created. Then we allow to create user-defined fields. This is important to implement business processes which are customer specific. Today's cloud services have the issue that you're not able to customize it to reflect your own individual business processes within the cloud. You would need a cloud platform to do that, but if you use a cloud platform, you need to implement or program these kind of individual business processes. What we provide is customizing in the user interface in a very easy and elegant way. As you can see here, you can create your own certificate forms which are individual for that business process for car modification. And then you would need workflow to route this kind of certificates through an organization, but not just through one organization. You could even route information across company and country borders in a workflow. And this again is possible because if you have a public cloud service which provides software as a service, which includes a workflow engine as Folio Cloud does, then you're able to implement B2B collaboration business processes using this kind of process editor. The process editor is based on the standard BPMN, BPMN2. So it provides all the elements you would expect to have in this business process modeling standard, and then you can link certain elements in this model to elements in the workflow engine, and this allows you to execute the business process directly out of the model by creating process instances which are executed by Folio Cloud. And in addition to that, we do also provide platform as a service to allow development partners to implement their own business applications, and we call them cloud apps. And you could have your own private cloud apps which are specific to a certain customer and nobody else would see them, but you could also implement public cloud apps which are reviewed by Fabasoft and then published in the Fabasoft Cloud App Store, which is available under www.cloudappstore.com. And there you could find, in the meantime, you could find at least 100 different business applications, vertical applications, which provide enriched functionality for certain business areas, and they are implemented on top of Folio Cloud. Okay, and now I would like to show how that works. So I'm connected to the internet with my notebook here, and I would start a browser to log into Folio Cloud. you should now see my browser. Could enlarge it a bit. This is the Folio Cloud homepage, www.foliocloud.com.
Sorry to interrupt you shortly, Karl. We can only see the PowerPoint presentation still.
Okay, sorry. Then I will move to my screen. Now you should see it.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So this is the, I use a Chrome browser in this case. This is the Folio Cloud homepage. And it provides a lot of information about Folio Cloud, and it has these two buttons here. You could register for a free account by using a self-service, and this would allow you to test Folio Cloud even for B2B collaboration with other partners for free. And I do already have a login, so I could use login to log into Folio Cloud here. And as you can see, there are different ways to authenticate using email address and password with a mobile PIN, for instance. And here you have digital ID with my Austrian mobile signature. I could log in with my mobile signature. And here I could use certificate. And this is single sign-on with my client certificate. So if I click on login now, I have a Fabasoft certificate which was generated with the root certificate from Fabasoft, and I can use that to authenticate against the cloud, and now I'm logged into Folio Cloud. And this shows me what we call team rooms. A team room is a secure, protected area in the cloud which can only be accessed by people who were granted access. And as you can see, I collaborate with people from Daimler and from car manufacturers. We prepared the webinar today together with John via the cloud. I collaborate with a marketing agency called The Bank in London, and so on. So this is about B2B collaboration via the cloud. And if I look at this team room here, it shows me content which is structured by folders here, and I can see preview. And if I click on that symbol here, then I can see who has access at the moment. So these are people, these are different organizational units, different companies, different people who have access. And I could now quite easily change the type of access. I could say I want to give agile projects read access, which means that those people will only have read access for the content within that team room. But I could also give them full control, which would allow them to grant access to other people as well. So they are administrators. I have different levels to set access rights for such a team room. And I could differentiate access rights within a team room by creating sub-team rooms. So I could have a project A team room or a project B team room within a team room to separate access for certain areas within such a team room. And now I do have sample certificates here. These are sample certificates for the China compulsory certificate process. So if I double click that document in the team room, we use a plugin, a browser plugin, to set a lock in the cloud, download a copy to my local notebook and open it in a productivity tool, which is a PDF viewer in this case. And now I can see the document here. And we do also provide properties for such a certificate. If I click on properties, I can see some sample properties for such a certificate. For instance, a name or a certificate number, or for what markets it could be, for what market it could be used, and so on. How do we provide this kind of form? I have a user-defined form here. I called it car homologation. So if I double-click this one, then I will see the form editor. And I could now start to change that form. So I could move those elements in the form. I could create a new text field, which could be the manufacturer description. And now I have a new field here. Oh, I could create a new separator. I could even create new pages and so on, radio buttons. So I can design my own form for implementing such an individual business process. And if I close that here, I could then use the context menu to publish that form and to release it for usage. And then I could choose certain organizational units or users who are allowed to apply this kind of forms to their content. And in this case, I can apply it to myself. So how would I use that now? If I go back to the sample certificates, you can, let's see, practical demonstration. No, I need to do it here. I have to change this a bit. I need to show a category. So each content, each document has a category, and the category defines what kind of form is used for that content. Now I could import a new content. I have one on my desktop on my notebook. This is this kind of PDF file I showed before. So I take it and drag it and drop it to my browser, and this uploads it to the team room. So I have a new content in my team room. And if I click on properties, you can see that it doesn't have the process-specific properties yet. But if I copy the category and assign it to the content and edit the properties again, you can see that it has the specific properties now, and I could implement, I could set those property values as I need for this kind of certificate. So this is how you would assign a specific individual form to an existing content. And you can add such a form to any kind of content within Folio Cloud. You could even use those user-defined fields in the generic functionality. So I could add the market definition, for instance, as a standard column in the view, and then I could even change it inline in the column. This is generic functionality which can also be applied to user-defined fields. And then we need a process. How would you model such a process? I do have an example here. It's this kind of homologation process. And if I double-click this kind of process, I will get a process editor which supports BPMN2. So I can now see that business process here. And I could now use all the elements which are supported by that editor. I can have all the BPMN2 artifacts which are defined by the standard, or I could use a core set of elements, and then I could simply create my business process here. So let's assume that I don't want this here, so I could change it. And then I could, for instance, have this kind of oops, I need to change this here. I shouldn't do that. Okay. But I think you can imagine how this would work. I could now add elements to this business process and change that business process to reflect my process. This can also be used just for documentation or just for optimizing business processes within an organization and across company boundaries. But the nice thing is that you could also link those elements to the Folio Cloud workflow engine. So I could select an element in the model and I could align it with an element in the workflow engine and provide the workflow role. And this allows me to execute this kind of process. How would I execute such a process? I could release it for execution. And if I go back to my demo certificate, here is the demo certificate. I could now use the context menu to start a new process. And then I could choose my homologation process, and it will show me the model for that again. I have to resize it a bit. And then I could start the process directly out of the model. And if I'm involved in such a process execution, I will have a work list. And the work list will show me work items which are generated out of the model to instantiate that business process. So you can see that I just received a new activity, as we call that, and you would have work items to execute that activity. And then I could delegate it to somebody else, or I could put it on pending. Pending means that I do not want to do it now, but I would like to do it in 10 weeks, for instance, and then it would be placed on hold, and I would get it back in 10 weeks to continue working on that. So that's workflow. But again, the nice thing is that you could really implement the business process across company and country boundaries. So you could link companies, and you could really transform business processes to the cloud, and you could collaborate with companies in a very close and efficient way using this kind of business processes. Okay, so that's just a short demonstration how that works within Folio Cloud, and I think that's it from my side for the moment, and I'll give the presentation back to Will. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Karl. We've actually had a few questions come in, so I welcome John and Karl back onto the line, if that's okay. And I'll open up, this is, one sec, I'll just switch over the screen. Okay. So the first question is, John, I think in your presentation you mentioned the hybrid cloud. And the question is, do you see hybrid cloud solutions as being particularly relevant for the supply chain industry?
Well, I've discussed this with many people actually in the industry, and I think when we started this work, we looked at it on the basis of, am I going to just have all my, move everything to the public cloud, or am I going to have a private cloud? And I think the consensus really is that the hybrid cloud model is going to be the model that the supply chain will embrace overall, simply because of your data. So when you look at your data and how important it is, it's generally 4 parts to 1 part. 4 parts of your data you'll be happy to have in a public cloud, but 1 part of your client data you'll want to keep behind your own firewalls. So that is the reason I would think that the hybrid cloud model will be probably the one that will be of most interest to the supply chain.
Okay, brilliant. Karl, maybe you have something to add to that question regarding hybrid cloud solutions?
Yes, Will, if you could give me the screen for a moment, I could show an additional slide here.
Okay.
Now you should see it. We would provide hybrid solutions as well in the Portfolio Cloud, and there are 3 different types of hybrid solutions you could implement here. One is the hybrid cloud, which means that we could create a cloud location or a cloud partition within a company data center. And this would allow the company to have their own data within their own data center, but still collaborate via a public cloud service with other companies and customers. That's one situation which we would support. The second situation is that we would support a hybrid team room. This would mean that you would have an on-premise installation from Fabasoft. You could have your on-premise team rooms, and then you could temporarily publish such a team room to the public cloud to involve external people for collaboration. And if you completed that, you could take that public team room back into your company boundaries as an enterprise team room again. So it's just temporarily exposing data to certain external people and taking it back in-house. And the third hybrid aspect is that we would also allow to implement this kind of cloud apps as enterprise apps, which means that you could have such an individual business process as an app within your company or across company and country borders, and it's the same source code. So you could really implement that based on our platform as a service environment to run it in the cloud or to run it within your enterprise.
Okay, and actually while we're on the topic of apps, so cloud apps, applications in the cloud, another question that we have is what sort of time frame or what sort of effort is involved in creating such a cloud app? So we mentioned the app for car homologation, for example.
Yes, actually this cloud app was implemented within a couple of weeks. And the reason is that it's quite easy to do that because we support this kind of modeling. Model your forms, model your business processes, model your applications in an Eclipse modeling framework. We have so-called domain-specific languages which encapsulate complexity so that it's easy to model such individual elements for your own business processes. And as I said, they were up and running in their first tests within a couple of weeks.
Okay, thank you, Karl. One question, this is probably more for you, John. Do you see any need for standards to ensure an open exchange of data between companies via the cloud, as one example? So is there a need for standards?
Yeah, I do. I think standards are very, very important. And I think one of the organizations we do liaise with at the Supply Chain Cloud is the Open Group. We believe that having open standards and for the sharing of information is vital in this between cloud providers, and especially looking at a hybrid cloud model as well. So standards are very important for any industry, doesn't matter what it is. And I think the more standards that we have and the more protocols we have in place, the better for the industry because it provides more trust for the end users.
Yep,
Will,
sorry,
can I add to that?
Yeah, of course.
We do also think that standards are very important here, and that's why we support CMIS, for instance, as an open standard to access content and data in the cloud, and we do also support WebDAV. I'm still online, so I could show you that. I could open my Windows Explorer here, and you could see that I have a network drive letter F, and that is actually directly linked to the cloud. So I can see the car, homologation, team room, and the sample certificates in my Windows Explorer. So I could use backup tools to synchronize data using this kind of environment and this kind of standard, which is called WebDAV.
Okay, thank you very much, Karl. There's another question that's come in for you, which is, how does Folio Cloud handle files that are edited simultaneously?
So far, we do set a lock for a document. This makes sure that only one person could edit a document at the same time, but there could be multiple people who could read the document at the same time. But we do already work on parallel editing of documents, as you would maybe know it from other services already. So we are looking forward to provide that quite soon.
Okay, and the second part of that question was, could a whole Access data bank be linked and accessed from different team rooms through the cloud?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yep, sorry. Could a whole Access data bank be linked and accessed from different team rooms through the cloud?
A whole Access
data bank. It's a database.
Microsoft Access database.
Yep. So
Yes, you could implement. You could import a Microsoft Access database to Folio Cloud, and you could then edit that database within Folio Cloud, if that was the question.
I think that was the question. If not, then I would ask the participant to maybe get in touch with us. And okay, perfect. Yep, that's exactly the answer he was looking for. Thanks, Karl. Okay, so if there are no further questions, then that just leaves me to thank both of our participants. So thank you, John. Thank you, Karl, for your time this morning. I would also like to thank the participants for taking the time to join us for the webinar. As I mentioned at the start, we will be making the recording and the presentation slides available, and you'll receive an email in the upcoming days explaining how exactly you can access that information. If you also want any further information about the supply chain cloud, about the webinar, about Folio Cloud, then please don't hesitate to get in contact with us. There will also be contact information on our website and also in the email that you will receive. So, it's nothing less to wish you a good afternoon, a good lunchtime, and hopefully until next time, goodbye.